The Cursed Lullaby. The first time I heard the lullaby, I was hiking alone in the untouched forests of Meyerwood, a place avoided by the locals due to numerous accounts of strange occurrences. As the sunlight waned, a soft melody floated through the dense canopy of trees. It sounded like a woman's voice, melodic and sweet, singing an unfamiliar tune. Curiosity piqued, I decided to follow the sound, venturing deeper into the forest than I had ever been. As I walked, the sun continued its descent and the forest darkened, but the lullaby grew clearer. Finally, I stumbled upon a dilapidated cabin, almost hidden by overgrown foliage. The singing was emanating from within. Despite the unease gnawing at me, I approached the door, which was slightly ajar. Pushing it open gently, I peered inside. To my shock, I found no one. However, a rusty old music box sat on the center of a wooden table, open, playing that haunting lullaby. I hesitated for a moment, then, in a decision I'd come to regret, I took the music box with me. That night, as I set up camp, the eeriness of the forest seemed amplified. The distant hoot of an owl, the rustling leaves, all seemed to echo the haunting lullaby. Trying to shake off my unease, I stowed the music box in my backpack and tried to sleep. As I drifted into a restless slumber, a dream took hold. I was back at the cabin, but this time, a woman stood there, her back turned to me. She hummed the lullaby. When I tried to approach, she turned slowly. Her face was obscured in shadow, but her eyes, oh those eyes, glowed an unnatural shade of green, piercing through the darkness. She extended a bony finger, pointing at the music box in my hand. "Return it," she whispered. I jolted awake, heart racing. The early morning light barely penetrated the dense canopy. I decided then and there to return the music box to the cabin. However, finding the cabin again was not as simple as I had hoped. Hours turned into days. Every direction I took seemed wrong. Worse, each night I was haunted by the same dream, the woman's demand growing more urgent and her eyes more menacing. On the fourth day, famished and desperate, I stumbled upon a clearing. In the center stood an old woman, her back to me, humming that now dreadful lullaby. Cautiously I approached, clutching the music box. "Are you the one from my dreams?" I ventured. She turned and I recoiled. It was her. The same glowing green eyes. But now in the daylight, I could see her features clearly, and they were twisted in a grimace of pain and anger. "You took what wasn't yours," she hissed. I'm sorry," I stammered, holding out the music box. "I came to return it." She eyed me suspiciously, then nodded towards the cabin that miraculously stood at the edge of the clearing, just as I remembered it. "Place it back where you found it." I did as instructed, my hands trembling. As I set the music box down, the haunting tune began to play on its own. When I looked up, the old woman stood in the doorway watching. "Why did you take it?" she inquired, her voice softer now. "It was beautiful," I admitted shamefully. "I was drawn to it. I never intended to cause any harm." The woman sighed, her glowing eyes dimming slightly. "This lullaby has been in my family for generations. I sang it to my children, and they to theirs. When I passed away, it remained here, a part of the woods, a piece of my soul. Removing it disrupted the balance." "I'm so sorry," I whispered, tears forming in my eyes. "Can you forgive me?" She paused, her gaze piercing through me. "Remember this lesson," she said finally. "Not everything beautiful is meant to be taken." With that, she turned away, entering the cabin. As the door shut behind her, the structure began to fade, becoming translucent until it disappeared entirely. I left Meyerwood with a heavy heart, forever changed. The haunting lullaby remains with me, a stark reminder of the price of greed and the importance of respecting what isn't ours. The locals, upon hearing my tale, added it to the many legends of Meyerwood. I, however, never ventured into those woods again, choosing instead to share my story with those willing to listen, hoping to prevent another from making the same mistake I did.